Hi, this is Regeline Sabat, also known as Gigi, and you're listening to Walk With Me podcast. My guests today are award-winning author Stacy Padula, NBA coach Brett Gunning, and executive producer Mark Blutman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's great to be here.
Yes, such an honor to have each of you here. Now, can each of you start off by telling us more about you and where are you from?
Sure. Want me to start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm Stacy Padula. I am the author of 13 books and the owner of Briley Baxter Publications, a publishing company in support of animal rescues. So we publish a variety of children's books, young adult books, self-help, inspirational, and, really even nonfiction, pretty much everything. So I'm obviously very passionate about literature and creative writing specifically. So I am the author of the Grip Book series, which is young adult fiction, the Montgomery Lake High series, which is inspirational young adult, and then the On the Right Path series with NBA coach Brett Gunning, which is children's.
I love it. Brett?
Great. My name is Brett Gunning, and I grew up outside of the Philadelphia area in the beautiful Northeast part of the country. I've been involved in coaching my whole career right out of college. Finished my 26th year in coaching. Was fortunate to coach in the NBA the last 14 years, and have kind of taken some time here to dive into a nonprofit organization that I started called On the Right Path. And that's how I was fortunate to cross paths with Stacy and now Mark. But my passion is really serving others through the game of basketball, whether that's coaching in the NBA or serving younger kids and trying to guide youth on the right path using the game of basketball.
Thank you, Brett. Mark?
I will do my absolute best to not make you regret an open-ended question to me. Where are you from? Tell us about yourself. I will do my best to not make you, because I can just go. I will be as brief as possible. First of all, it's awesome to be here with you. And certainly I adore these people, Stacy and Brett. So it's great to share this platform with them. I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. Moved to LA when I was about 22 years old. And I am now going to jump. I'm a Emmy Award winning, which I'm very proud of, writer producer. I'm known for iconic hit family shows like Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World. I recently just did a series on Ghostwriter. That was the one actually where I finally won an Emmy after 6 losses. That's on Apple TV, streaming right now. And I'm blessed, beyond blessed, to have been chosen by Stacy to adapt her book series Gripped, which I think is one of the most important pieces of work I've ever attached myself to. And I'm equally proud to be working with Brett and Stacy on the Right Path. And as Brett said, it's a work dedicated to reaching young children. And it's never too early to say, hey, there's a reasonable path. Take that one. You'll have a good life. Amen. That's the short of it.
Thank you, Mark. Now, Stacy, tell us more about your book that will be releasing soon.
So we just had one that just came out like a couple weeks ago, which was On the Right Path, Book 3. Which became the #1 new release in its genre on Amazon. And then I'm currently writing and hope to get out this summer or fall, Gripped Part 6. So it's just a continuation of Taylor Duncan's story in my Grip book series. So that one is, it's almost more like a crime drama at this point. You're in the climax of the series right when you start Grip 6. It just picks up right where 5 left off. So it's just like very suspenseful, and I'm enjoying writing it so much. I cannot wait to release it. Gripped 5 just actually won a Reader's Choice Award. So I'm thrilled about that. That motivated me even more, made me even more excited to get Grip 6 out there for people. So between that and then Brett and I are going to be starting On the Right Path 4 pretty soon too.
I love it. Tell us more about your TV series that is in production right now.
Mark, do you want to talk about that? Because you are more in the mix of that than me at the moment.
We're talking about Gripped.
Yeah, and then we can
So
talk
Gripped,
about
yeah. So I'll start with Gripped. We're not actually in production. We're in what's called development in Hollywood terms, and development is that's the reaction most of us get when we hear the word development. We just go, ah!
That was my kid. Sorry.
Yeah, no, all good. It's a Hollywood term for basically purgatory, where we don't know exactly where we're going to end up. So I was hired by Stacy and her company to adapt the book series. And what went into that was basically reading all 5 books twice, which is probably more reading than I've done in the last 20 years combined, because I've been busy doing TV, and then turn it into a 1-hour pilot script. And then my reps have been, at this point, we are out to directors. The best route right now in our business is to really kind of, get as many really good attachments as possible. So we went out to directors, who the feedback has been great. I've had a bunch of meetings. We have not yet settled on anyone. And probably I would say within the next, it's so hard to say, but 6 to 8 weeks, we will start going to Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and places like that where this belongs. It truly is a streaming series, and that's where it really belongs. And then as far as On the Right Path, which is a much different set of buyers, the kids market is very, very specific. And we're trying to find the right partners with that too. But what's amazing is Stacy and Brett just keep turning out, new additions. They're about to embark on 3. I know 4, 5, 6 will be around the corner. So ultimately, it makes our job easier to try and set it up when there's more IP. That's the big thing in Hollywood. In intellectual property, executives really, really like it when there's a book or a play or a song or something like that attached. So that's kind of where we're at right now. But we're super excited about both projects. Talk about opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got the book that Stacy and Brett did, which is taking these 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds who are, still so embryonic in terms of life experience. They're still just sponges and haven't really, picked a path, picked a definitive journey. Who are they? They're still evolving. And then on the other end of the spectrum are these grown-up kids who come from very, very complicated families, and they're living in a world, our world, which is filled with divisiveness and, an overall lack of kindness, decency, and morality. And a lot of them come from these homes with helicopter parents that are over them constantly and putting undue pressure, and you've got to be the best at football and you have to get the best grades. And it's a generation where there's a lot of pressure on these kids. And so a lot of them, unfortunately, through that pressure, that uncertainty, that inability to be strong because they're still fragile young kids, in the Grip series, a lot of them find their way, experimenting with opioids and benzos, and that's the reality and part of the Grip series. But ultimately, it's a show about recovery and hope. So that's where we are with that book series. On the Right Path is telling these young kids, instilling the most basic concepts of teamwork and sharing and hygiene and empathy and compassion and all these, buzzwords, which I think is so important, because as simple as it sounds, especially with the pandemic, these last 2 years, these parents of these young children are distracted. and those words are not being as readily imparted to young kids. So that's why I think the book that Brett and Stacy have created has even more need and will have an even greater impact during these times.
I love it. Very powerful, and the messages are very powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mark. Now, Stacy, tell us more about your publishing company, Briley and Baxter Publications, LLC.
Sure. So I was a traditionally published author and in the industry for about 9 years. My first 6 books came out that way through a different publishing company. And I was moved to actually start my own publishing company for a few different reasons. One being, number one, I wanted more control over when my books were published. I wanted them to come out faster than what my previous publisher was willing to do. But number two, I really wanted to make the publishing industry more accessible to authors. I had to jump through hoops to get my first book published. I sent out probably 70 query letters to agents until I finally got an agent who was willing to take on a young new writer. And then from there, it was shopping to publishers, and it really just took on a life of its own. And I wanted to be able to make that just more viable for people out there who have a good story, that they're passionate about telling it, and maybe they don't want to go the self-publishing route and they also can't get an agent. So when I created Briley Baxter Publications, I did it with the model of donating 10% of our monthly proceeds, our royalties from our books, to different animal rescue every single month. So we've been able to partner with a lot of great organizations. I named it after my 2 miniature dachshunds, Briley and Baxter, with Baxter, who is a rescue. So he was sort of the inspiration behind our mission. And we are close to publishing our 50th book at this point. I have enjoyed more than I ever thought I would, just working with all the talented authors that I have met. And some of them have now published their second or third book with us. And we just have this ongoing relationship where we check in a lot, and just getting to share in their success has just been such a fulfilling and meaningful opportunity. I've fallen in love with being a publisher.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Stacy. Now, Brett, tell us more about your experience being a coach.
Whoa, I can run, as Mark says, I could run with that for a while. I think for me, a big part of my life is rooted in my faith, and growing up in a Christian background. And one of the principles that was deeply embedded in my spirit was that of being a servant, helping others. And I think one of the keys in life is just discovering kind of the unique passion that you have, that God has gifted you with, and then what can you do to use that passion to serve other people. And my passion has always been the game of basketball, and I was very fortunate to get involved in the coaching profession at a young age. And I always just enjoyed, there's so many things you see in sports, on TV, and in these, all the fans and all the crowds and all the hype and all the money and all the fame, all that stuff that comes with professional sports. But for me, the enjoyment is what I call kind of being in the trenches, behind the scenes, in the trenches with the players, and trying to help them reach their maximum potential. And I think a lot of times when we look at athletes, we think that they're like almost superhuman, and what you find as you spend time with them is they're just like everybody else. They have fear, they have anxieties, they have good days and bad days. And what people fail to realize is, imagine if our lives were videotaped and filmed, all day, every day, and then we went home at night and we turned on the TV and it was on the news, what we did that day at the office. I mean, it's like, we take for granted that athletes, a lot of times, they're just supposed to be perfect, make no mistakes, react great every time. And so to me, coaching is just trying to help others reach their maximum potential. And for me, it's, my passion is the game of basketball, and I've been blessed to have a long journey in that sport. And now, I want to continue to try to impact as many people as I can, whether it's in the game or as a part of my nonprofit organization.
Do you,
I love
Brett, do you sometimes feel like a parent to like these 13 players? You've got 3 at home and then
Yeah.
you've got like 13 on a team. I mean, is that like a role sometimes?
No, for sure. And I think, you walk that fine line, just as you do with a parent. Um, you know, you love and you love your kids, but you have to get on them for the betterment of knowing that if I don't get on them now, a coach that I spent the first 14 years of my journey with a guy by the name of Jay Wright, who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, a great college coach at Villanova University. And one thing he used to tell me all the time was, you only get a certain number of years. You get this small window with your kids before they're gone, before they leave the house. And he's like, every day the thought should be, am I preparing them for that day when they leave, that they're going to be okay? And I think it's the same way with your players. They're thrusted into these moments of competition and competing against the best. And what you try to do as a coach is just prepare them as much as you can. And certain days it's loving them, certain days it's lifting them up, certain days it's getting on them. But it's that, it's that feel, Mark, as you know, having been a parent to two great boys. I'm pretty sure I'm not leaving anybody out, but
not that I know of.
but it's a lot. You got to love them up. You got to discipline them, and everything in between. But it's one thing. It's funny. I have a program that I do here with a local community center here, and I was talking to the kids the other day, and this is the thing that blows my mind is so many kids these days, whether it's their teacher, their coach, their parents, what a lot of kids fail to realize is the people that care about them the most are the ones that we listen to the least. Meaning the teachers are getting on them, their coaches getting on them, their parents are getting on them, and so it's like, that's just them. They're just yelling. It's like, but most of them don't realize like these are the ones that care about me the most. So they listen the least because they're tired of getting yelled at, or they're tired of somebody being on them. But yet it's the people that actually care about them the most.
Very true. Now, Brett, you mentioned topics such as anxiety, depression, and mental health. Why do you believe those topics are not really discussed in our society and in the sports industry?
Again, I think everybody says it. It's taboo, right? If you have a sprained ankle, if your knee's messed up, your back's messed up, immediately you go to see the doctor, right? If you're anxious, or you're nervous, or it's like you can't go see a mental, you can't go see a psychologist, so I think there's this kind of stigma that I think it's starting to get, it's gradually getting knocked down. It's funny. I was watching an interview the other day. There was a player talking about how Ron Artest, who now goes by Meta World Peace, he kind of shattered that glass when they won the championship Game 7 with the LA Lakers, and he hit the big shot with a minute to go, and they're interviewing him after the game, and he's like, the first person I want to thank is my psychiatrist, and everybody was like, what did he just say? And I think that started it, and now gradually, people are becoming less and less afraid to say like, yeah, I need help. I'm struggling right now, and I need help. So I think it's getting better, and I think each day that we continue to address it, and make it. It's just an honest thing. I'm not trying to run from it. I'm not trying to hide from it. I have a problem. I need help, and I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I think the more that we have players stand up and say that, I think the less and less others are going to be afraid to do the same.
Yeah, it's definitely, if I can piggyback, because I advocate a lot about mental health. My mother has suffered for 60 years, chronic mental health issues. As a child, when she wouldn't get out of bed, I just thought she was tired a lot because nobody talked about it. So these things are generational, right? Our education and our, awareness are rooted in the generation in which we were a part of. So back when I was a kid, it was completely taboo to talk about. And now I'm really proud to be able to use my platform, which is writing characters. Stacy has done the same in her books, so it's fantastic. I wrote a scene that is in the pilot where one of the lead characters, Taylor, is back speaking at his middle school. And so he's about 18 here, and he's talking to these middle school kids. And he says, how many people here go to the dentist for checkups? And everybody in the auditorium raised their hands, right? Everybody. And he says, yeah, exactly. Even when nothing is wrong, you go to the dentist for a checkup, just so your teeth are okay. And one day you could rip through an overcooked piece of meat. But how come we never go get our heads checked? How come every 6 months we don't check in with somebody and say, hey, what's going on? But our teeth, we do. And so I have a platform as a, writer. I reach, on Boy Meets World. I mean, we used to, 20 million people would watch us in one Friday. So there was a responsibility. And I've always felt there's a responsibility to reach people. And, as Brett said, as athletes start talking about it after a game in an interview, got to give a little props to my shrink, because I had a major panic attack yesterday because this is my first NBA finals. And boy, she or he talked me through it. And, I went out and lit it up for 40. So when we get more of that, and when we get Stacy writing what she's writing, and we get when I want to reach kids and create, and then talk openly about a mother who to this day suffers, it's been her whole life. And so, we're inching closer to where more and more people will freely talk about, mental health issues, because let's face it, all the other dark things around us, they're connected to mental health issues. I mean, that's the root for most of our problems. It's people not being able to cope and deal and handle.
Very true. Stacy, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that drives me to write the books I write. I thought of the exact same scene that Mark just brought up when Brett was talking. That's in our pilot. And just the idea of not being afraid to ask for help. I mean, a lot of my characters, they're feeling pressured, whether it's academic or athletic or just even social pressures. And that is what causes them to turn to some of these substances that ultimately just open up just a whole Pandora's box of other issues, that come from that. And it's a lot of them just being afraid to share these things with their family or their friends when they're struggling, or just being afraid of failure, or, afraid of seeming weak. I mean, whatever it is, I like to write about a lot of different people so everyone can find themselves in the story somewhere. And I just think now there's just so much pressure on young people, specifically like teenagers who might be on social media and so forth. I mean, there's just pressures that I certainly didn't have growing up. So it's like more so than ever, I want these kids to just know it's okay to seek out help, and also just for loved ones to even be able to see the warning signs, because I think that's something you see in my books a lot. The people around them are kind of clueless. Like, they don't know what to look for. Any signs that people are just thinking under that pressure that they place upon themselves, or just even seeing signs that they're abusing pills. It's so easy to hide things. So that's another thing that I think parents and teens can take away from my books.
Very powerful. Now, Mark, how important is prayer?
I think it, for each individual, it plays a different role. I do personally believe in the power of prayer, certainly. I think that, people can draw strength from their faith. I mean, and in a messed up world, in a decaying world that is filled with temptation and sin and lack of direction, morals and ethics. I think the two places to draw strength from are prayer and family. And so, absolutely. And prayer can mean a lot of different things to different people, but wherever they draw their strength from, I'm really all down with that.
Amen. I agree. Now, Mark, can you tell us more about what inspired you to create the shows like Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World?
Well, I can answer that very quickly by saying I actually did not create them. I wish I did, because then I would be chatting on a 20-foot computer screen and not my little Apple. Michael Jacobs is the creator of Boy and Girl Meets World. I've run those shows. I was the executive producer, the showrunner. I've worked with Michael numerous times. But I will answer your question because I did. In fact, I just talked about this recently on something where I came into it early on and I immediately felt proprietary. I felt like it was my own show. I felt protective over these kids, these young actors, Danielle Fishel and Ryder Strong and Ben Savage. And so I always felt like it was my show. And as I said earlier, that responsibility to affect kids in a positive way was the driving force in my career. I would say 90% of what I've done over a 32-year career has been, positive messaging. Somebody once told me, they said, we're here to entertain and anybody can make an audience laugh. But if you make them feel, they will come back over and over and over again. And they may not be able to articulate why they keep coming back to watch the show. But Boy was a hit for 7 years, 156 episodes. Girl ran for 3, 75 episodes. Loyal audiences. They continue to perform well in reruns on Disney Plus, on streaming. It's because we reached out and never talked down and did silly jokes. We informed and made the audience feel. We did an episode, I want to say in 1996. Nobody on a family show ever did this. We did a story. And the reason I'm mentioning it, because now we're in 2022 and I still get direct messages from young kids or older now saying how much this affected them positively. There was an episode where, Sean Hunter lived in a trailer park and Corey went, knocked on the door, and Sean opened it up. And in the background, there was a girl just in the doorway coming out of the shower wrapped in a towel. And of course, Corey is like, oh, Sean, you met this girl. Cool. That's so awesome. And he's like, bro, it's not that. It's not what you think. It's nothing like that. Then what is it? I can't tell you. And as the story unfolded, it was discovered that he was protecting her from an abusive parent who was beating her at night. And they saw the bruises on her arm and the whole bit. And then they had to eventually go to adults who went to the police, and she ended up moving and living with an aunt in Vermont. When you can do this kind of television and then 20 years later have young people reach out and say, thank you so much for that. I was going through something similar. I was able to reach out to an aunt or an uncle and they helped me, whatever. And I got the strength from you. So that makes me, smile when I go, my legacy will always first and foremost be Liam and Luke, my 2 boys. Then it'll be Brett third. I never told you that, Brett. You're third. But no, seriously, my legacy of affecting kids in this way and doing television that will have a long-lasting effect on young people forever and ever who are now parents who may sit down and pop in an episode and watch it with their kids because they watched it 30 years earlier. That's powerful. I mean, I don't know how you can have a more impactful career than me, and I'm so blessed.
I love it. Such an amazing way as well to raise awareness about domestic violence, because as we know, it doesn't just happen in relationships as most people believe in our society, but it also does happen in the family home. And so now, Mark, can you tell us more about the middle schooler comedy I'm With Her that you have teamed up with Danielle to develop?
Sure. So that, that's kind of a vehicle to do a boy and girl meets world at the same time. And it also speaks to the world we find ourselves living in, as Stacy mentioned. Social media has made it that the metric for a young person to measure their worth, their value, their opinions are likes and follows. That's the metric for a young person measuring where they fit in the world. So this show really speaks to that, where we have two people, these two opposites. We have Allie, our 12-year-old middle schooler, who is an influencer, not like a Kardashian influencer, but a middle school influencer. She has maybe 300 followers. And so she has a platform, but she has very little substance. She gives out advice like, roller backpacks are social, suicide. So strap on your backpack and walk proud. Don't share hats. Hair lice is real. How to ask out somebody to a dance in 6 emojis or less. It's shallow stuff. The guy had just moved to the area. He doesn't know anybody. And he's kind of king of the nerds, king of the geeks. He's fun. He's likable. He floats from group to group, clique to clique, but he doesn't really have a belonging. He doesn't have that peer group, but he's got this incredible social conscience. He's awesome. So she has a platform, no substance. He has substance, no platform. In the pilot, they're thrown together in detention, and all of a sudden, bing, her message notifications come on, and one of her subs wrote in and said, I don't know if I can get up in the morning. I am tired of going to school. I have nobody to sit with. I have nobody who will talk with me. I dread getting up in the morning. So she's sitting there. How do I answer this? She's not that kind of person. And he's sitting there looking over her shoulder, smiling and kind of giggling. What? It looks like you could use some help. No, I'm fine. She can't answer it. He gives her this advice, amazing advice. She steals it, uses it, gives it to the subscriber. All of a sudden now it worked. What she said at school, there was like an extra table set up where one person from each group would sit with this new person, and she was happy, happy, happy. So meanwhile, our guy now is like furious, like, you just stole my idea and took credit. And so eventually what they do is they broker a deal so he won't go tell the whole school. He will continue to be her voice, her consciousness, her social, aware voice, in exchange for her inviting him into her world of popularity. So that's kind of where the title I'm With Her is. So it's kind of a Cyrano type thing where he will teach her, to be more socially aware as she sponges off the help. And it's just a really kind of fun, real grounded show, very much in the spirit of, John Hughes movies, who was my idol. Just, two kids coming of age who each of them become each other's checks and balances, and they each ultimately make the other one a better, more well-rounded person. And that's I'm With Her.
Wow.
And Danielle's going to direct it, and we're really excited about that.
Very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mark. Now, Brett, what's next for On the Right Path?
Wow, that's a great question. We just finished the development of a curriculum. It's a 12-week curriculum where we combine a life skill, a basketball skill, and a Bible verse. And we're preparing. We've been in meetings with different youth organizations all across the country, really with the goal of trying to get it into as many schools and clubs and rec centers, and kind of take the message of On the Right Path all around the country. And so this curriculum has been really a big project that we just finalized. So we're very excited about that. We're also currently working on an online course where kids can go on and take that same curriculum, a little bit different, where there's more a teaching component of videos and different examples of the life skills that we're talking about. So we're really in a phase now where we're trying to branch out with our curriculum, and again, just try to impact as many people as we can all around the country.
I love it. Now, what does leadership mean to each of you? I'll start off with Mark.
It's a great question, and here's what it means to me: that while I have a responsibility and a love of giving back and mentoring and leading, I'm still in a position to look up to my parents, who are 88 and 83 and still around, and anybody else who's an elder. I could look to them for leadership, because to me, it's infinite task in how we can continue to effect and also at the same time be affected. So to me, leadership is a two-pronged thing. It's leading and at the same time being led.
Very powerful. Stacy?
I say for me, I think of it as the ability and the honor really to be able to inspire others into action, to like lead by example, instead of really, it's not really my style to like tell people what to do, but I'm always so blessed when I hear people say, hey, knowing you did this or watching you do this gave me the courage to do this. And, and there's a lot of people who come to me as a mentor and stuff, but they seek me out. And it's just, my hope is just to inspire them to find their path, a pathway where they can use their God-given gifts to live a very fulfilling and impactful life.
Amen. And you are, by serving on the front lines. Now, Brett?
I love going last because they both stole my answers in a good way. I love what Mark. I like what Mark spoke on, because I think leadership is a big part of his humility and understanding that we all, you can never stop learning, and to have that endless kind of curiosity, to still be at an age where you could think like, okay, that's it. Like, I've learned all I've needed to learn. And yet it's like, wow, like I'm sure Mark would agree. He's still reading and learning things. And, there's the great quote, right? Live as if live as if you're going to live forever. Live as if you're going to die tomorrow. Learn as if you're going to live forever, And so there's this excitement of curiosity that is rooted in humility in leadership, meaning that you've been given a responsibility, but yet you want to continue to learn and to grow. And then I think it comes down to what Stacy says. Ultimately, can you inspire? Can you give hope, to younger people? Because they're the ones that are coming after us, and you want to leave it better for them, and you hope that they accomplish more than we ever could have accomplished. So can you inspire others to do great things? I think that's what hits me the most.
Amen. Very powerful. Now, do any of you have any last words to share with the audience today?
Read and write. Write and read. Young people. No, I mean, seriously, I know it sounds kind of silly just out of context, but, one of the things when I speak to young kids, they have all these ideas swimming around their heads. And because kids, as Brett alluded to, uber curious, and they have all these crazy stories in their head, but then they get into a structured situation in school, and if there's an assignment to write something, they're afraid to write that crazy off the wall quirky thing because they just are afraid how maybe it'll be perceived. So they often write a simpler story, and so I always try and encourage young people to, the cliche is reach for the stars, but I like to say reach to the back of your brain and pull out that idea that is spectacular, but you're afraid to share it. Share that one.
Very inspiring. Stacy?
Yeah, that made me think of so my Grip series that came out, the first book came out in 2019, but I actually invented that world that Grip is in and created those characters when I was 13 years old. I was assigned a project in school to do some type of, I could pick whatever expression I wanted, a poster, whatever. I did a book because that was my thing. I love to write. But the topic was peer pressure. And so I actually created all my characters for that project. And then I fell so in love with their world and their story that I continued writing those books all through high school and then after college and so forth. And actually my first book, The Right Person, which is part of my Montgomery Lake High series, that's the book I wrote as a 13-year-old, the first draft of that. So I followed Mark's advice and wrote what was in my heart. And now all these years later, we've got multiple book series out. We've got a TV show adaptation taking place. And I think that really came from following my passion and writing what I thought was an important message all the way back then.
Very powerful. Thank you, Stacy. Brett, any last words?
Oh man, I would just say, I think I'm about 10 years younger than Mark, and we're both old farts compared to Stacy. I know that, but I think when I was a kid, and I think Mark, I hope would agree with me, there was distractions, but not like the distractions now. I mean, it's out of control. The number of things that can steal your time, steal your joy. And I think my biggest thing would be to just make sure that everybody has the opportunities. Just stay focused on your purpose, your passion, because the days can just start flying by, and you start to say to yourself, like, what have I been doing? Like, what have I been? You're watching, or you're on the internet, or you're social media, and next thing you know, like a week passes by, a month, a year, and you're just like, what am I doing? I just think there's so many distractions. And we can't run from them. We can't hide from them. They're there. They're not going anywhere. The internet's not going anywhere. Social media, it's not all of a sudden going to stop. So you've got to be aware of all these distractions, and then say to yourself, all right, what am I about? What is my purpose every day? And really understand that we're given these blips of time on this whole, time of eternity. We're here for this blip, and it's like, let's make sure we're all using our time in a great way that's able to inspire people, help people, and achieve all the things we're dreaming about.
That's awesome. And to what he's saying, like all these what we've lost? What I want to bring back? Eye contact.
Yeah.
We don't have eye contact anymore.
It's true.
Yeah, especially with everything being so virtual the last couple of years too. It's now when I see people face to face, it's like, oh, you have to remember those things. Make eye contact.
Very true. It needs to come back. Thank you all for sharing your stories and for sharing more with the audience today. Now, where can the audience find you?
I'm on Twitter. And I do engage with my followers. I'm on Twitter as Blutman Mark, and on Instagram as Mark Blutman. Keep people guessing.
Awesome, Brett.
On the right path.org. Keep it nice and simple. That's where you can find us.
Awesome. Stacy?
I'm on Instagram a lot. So my publishing company is at Briley.Baxter.Books. And my author Instagram is at author_Stacy Padula. And my book website is StacyAPadula.com. And the publishing website is BrileyBaxterBooks.com.
I love it. And thank you all for being a guest on the Walk With Me podcast. And now make sure to check out Brett, Stacy, and Mark on all of their social media platforms and their websites. Thank you all. God bless you and be safe.
Thank you so much.
You.